Hello and welcome to the My Football Writer podcast. Thank you for listening, whether it's on YouTube or on our Spotify account. This is episode 33, and this season we've spoken about a Norwich City injury crisis. Well, the My Football Writer pod has an injury crisis today, as it's just me, Henry Miller, and Will Grant doing this podcast. So first of all, Will, how have you been? It's been weeks since we've had you on the podcast. You spoke to me off air saying that your availability is quite poor when we record during the week. So what's it like for you to be back on the podcast, and how have you been?
Mate, it feels absolutely amazing, and especially under your company, mate. It's brilliant to be back. I've missed it, and hopefully I'm going to come back with some really good, strong opinions, which hopefully all you guys agree on. But overall, mate, I've been absolutely fine. Life's been quite busy, obviously, but overall, Norwich are winning again, finding some form, which is absolutely fantastic. But more importantly, mate, how have you been getting on?
Yeah, I've been getting on really well, thank you. I went to an event on Thursday at the football club and managed to interview Dave Stringer, the absolute legend that is Dave Stringer for BBC Radio Norfolk, and this will hopefully be going out tomorrow, which will be Monday at time of recording, and there will be a package on the scrimmage as well. So make sure you'll listen to that on BBC Radio Norfolk tomorrow. But yeah, it was such a privilege, and Dave Stringer is someone who every Norwich City fan knows, and they know his contribution as both a player and a manager. So to have interviewed him and spoken to him about that famous 1971-72 season when City achieved promotion to the top flight for the first time was absolutely amazing. So yeah, really thankful that I got that opportunity. But as you alluded to there, Will, in your introduction, Norwich City are winning games. It was a 4-2 victory at Carrow Road yesterday against Stoke City. What do you make of it?
Yeah, it was quite a weird game, actually, I felt. I went in at half-time feeling very, very annoyed, actually, because I felt maybe Norwich could have been 2 or 3-0 up, but unfortunately, that wasn't the case. Quite a nice goal by Lewis Baker, but I think overall, I thought, especially in the first maybe half an hour, we were very, very good. Obviously, the likes of Fisher, Sargent had really good opportunities, and I just thought overall our passing play was fantastic. Really, great ball speed and also intensity as well. And I felt like we were probably maybe about 2-3 gears above what Stoke were performing at as well. So I thought overall, I thought we were pretty good. I did think at times we were a bit too easy to maybe play through at times. So obviously, I think that just shows when you have the likes of McLean, McConnell's obviously unavailable as well. So I think not definitely miss those 2 players because they give you so much control and also a lot of experience in that midfield as well, just to kind of see out those quite difficult moments. But overall, I was quite content with the Nunes, Samani and Sorensen midfield. I think in the last few weeks, Sorensen has been very, very good, especially I think probably go back to the Watford game onwards. I think he's been very, very good. Obviously, we did see in JHT's pre-match presses for this game that he's quite content maybe to have Lungi maybe around for next year, or maybe talk about it later towards more the end of the season. But I was very, very impressed with Lungi. I think he definitely really helped us in build-up. I think he made us available quite a lot. And I think when you've got the likes of Cordova stepping in as well, who is very, very good on the ball, it felt like a game that Norwich could really dominate and really try and start their authority in the game. And I think when you've got a player like Josh Sargent up front, you really, really do not need to create much opportunities for us to score, because he's just got such a fantastic quality in front of goal. He's just so brilliant at finding those top corners, bottom corners. And I think if Norwich do see him go in summer, he's going to be so hard to replace because he gives you so much. But I think the annoying thing is I did feel at times Norwich were playing a League One side maybe at times. I thought Stoke were probably that poor in patches, but overall Norwich can only beat what's in front of them. And I think the fan base will probably be maybe a bit carried away with that result, just due to how well we played. But I think it feels like this season for me anyway, like every time Norwich have won, it feels like the whole fan base is just extra happy. Like probably actually maybe more so maybe under when we had Wagner as well. Just feels like every game feels like an event, and if we win, it's just absolutely fantastic as well. So overall, I was very, very happy with how we played. I think we played some really, really good stuff, but I think at times as well, which JHT also said in his post-match. Norwich got a lot of stuff to work on, but I think a very, very decent result in isolation, and hopefully we can just try and claw closer to the playoff picture. What were your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, I think overall it's more positive than negative, but it would be wrong to not mention maybe how easy Norwich made it for Stoke to get back into the game. I know in Johannes Torup's post match interview, he made a point of really saying that it should have been out of sight, out of mind for Norwich. They were by far the better side, and he felt that the minute Norwich took the lead, that they sort of eased off a bit, really, and allowed Stoke a way back into the game. And I think I'm not sure what you think on this, but I think it just shows how good of a manager Johannes Torup is. The fact that we get him for half time, he wasn't happy. And then he goes, no, we need to assert our dominance on this game. We need to stamp our mark on this game. And within a few minutes of the second half starting, Norwich were ahead again, and then it was just plain sailing. So, do you think it is a Johannes Torup tactical masterclass?
Look, I think Norwich have got a very, very good manager on their hands, and I think at times he's got a very, very unique way of trying to motivate his players, but it definitely works, right? I think the way how he's getting his players to constantly stick to the style and maybe create a few tactical edges during games is very, very impressive. Obviously, we've seen the likes across the games throughout the season, really actually, where I think we've seen how JHT is quite flexible to go from maybe like a 4-back to a 5-back to maybe CL games, for example. So I think he's got absolutely fantastic tactical flexibility. And he's very, very astute in that department. It's just about, I think for me, I don't think it was a very tactical issue for Norwich, especially in the first half. I think we created so many chances. It's just about trying to maybe limit the amount of space which we're giving to Stoke, and maybe just trying to be a bit more clinical in the final third. Because when you've got the likes of Sargent, Sainz, and especially all those attacking players as well, I think you can score a lot of goals. And I just think maybe Norwich were maybe a bit too complacent in the final third. Obviously. There was some absolutely fantastic build-up play, and Norwich were very, very good in that middle third, like they've been all season, really, to be honest. But I just think it was probably more Norwich needs to be a bit more ruthless in front of goal, and I think that was probably the major factor. I think overall, maybe defensively, the Norwich probably be a bit annoyed. I'd say that Stoke were allowed a bit too much space on occasions, but I just think that's just due to how Norwich want to play as well. I think the game against Preston and Derby, when Norwich obviously couldn't get that important goal, for example, I think that's probably made them to be a bit more attacking with their thinking and trying to commit more bodies forward, for example, as well. So I think it's very important that Norwich do get the right balance and just try and be a very, very good team in possession and out of possession. But I do generally still feel that at times Norwich needs to be more ruthless because it feels like the game against Hull, for example, we played some good stuff, I think, probably for 60 minutes during that game, but I just felt like there needs to be a bit more clinical in front of goal when it matters. And I think that is probably what Norwich are missing right now, and why they probably aren't in that top 6 race. Because I think on paper, Norwich spent quite a lot of money the last 2 windows. Obviously, you look back at the signings of Crnac, Force, and Jurisic, for example, and I think if you're Blackburn, for example, I think you'd absolutely love to have that much money available to them as well. So I think definitely a playoff charge is a very, very realistic chance for Norwich to achieve this season. But hopefully, Norwich can maybe, as well as showing that tactical nous from JHT, I do think as well Norwich can actually help them out a little bit by taking those chances.
Yeah, and you mentioned that Norwich need to take their chances. One man who did take his chance when he got it and actually opened the scoring for Norwich was Lewis Dobbin. It's his second goal for the club, and I thought he took it really well. It was a really good finish, a really mature finish into the bottom right-hand corner as well. What have you made of Dobbin? Do you think he is someone who we should be looking to get on a permanent basis? Because I've been really impressed with him for what it's worth. So, yeah, really enjoying seeing him play in a yellow and green shirt and seeing him flourish in the team.
Yeah, I think he's had some good games for Norwich. I do think at times, obviously, it's so hard because I think Dobbin's probably best position is probably that left-hand side, and obviously that's where Sainz operates. But I was really impressed with Dobbins' goal. I felt actually probably towards the start of Dobbins' time at Norwich, I thought he was quite a bit raw on the ball at times, and maybe his touches were a bit inconsistent. But I think that goal against Stoke yesterday was fantastic. I think he showed fantastic dribbling. He kept the ball under his feet fantastically, and he finished it remarkably well, to be honest. And I think maybe that's just down to his match sharpness, get back to a very, very good level. And I think he's definitely a player which could definitely challenge Sainz and Eurosec in those wide positions. I haven't been overly too keen on him on the right-hand side when he's got to maybe go to the byline and cross in like that. But I think if he's allowed the chance to cut in and try and get close towards Sargent and Sarge, I think he's a very, very good operator. I think there's many, many questions and or maybe wishful hopes for the fan base that hopefully he signs on a long-term deal, on a permanent. I think it'd be quite hard to achieve that personally, but I don't know if that is something that I'd personally be wanted to pursue. I think he's given us fantastic qualities in terms of speed and the way he could beat his man and how almost kind of how positive he wants to be on the ball. But I do just think maybe Norwich could probably get better value for money elsewhere. I think if Villa were to sell it, it'll probably be maybe in the region of maybe £10 million. I don't know because obviously I think they signed him from Everton for about £20 million. Obviously, I think there was some PSR, maybe like restraints to that, but obviously it's very, very difficult to call actually how much he would be worth. But I just think maybe Norwich could get better value for money elsewhere in a different league, for example, because it feels like we've seen so many times this the last two windows how Norwich are happy to go to the likes of Czech Republic, Austria to try and get some real good talent in, and I think it feels like they probably see better value elsewhere overseas. But obviously Norwich also has to be very, very vigilant about the overseas slots and kind of which players can kind of qualify for certain brackets as well. Obviously, I'm not very astute on all of those regulations as such, but he's been a player that I've been impressed with. I don't think he would start as much games as he has done, to be honest with you. I think obviously that spell when Sainz was maybe out of a suspension, obviously I think he probably would have played obviously more games there, and he has done. But I did think he would still play after that, and he's done really well, to be honest with you. But I'm just not quite sure. Maybe he's probably going to be good. Be maybe worth maybe spending about £10 million, £5 million on in a window. But I've been very impressed with him on loan, and maybe I think Don wants to play football more importantly, and I think if he can get a loan move next year and Norwich want to go back in from then, I'm not against that personally, but I think Norwich could probably get better value elsewhere. What are your thoughts, Mo?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I think Norwich signing Lewis Dobbin, I wouldn't be against it. I think he has really taken his chance since he's come into the team. But like you said, when we've dipped into other markets like Turkey or Spain or Poland even, we've seen to have relatively good success in those markets. So Villa will definitely be commanding a fee of over £10 million. Look, this is someone who, albeit he probably wasn't worth his transfer fee, but I think he went to Villa for, as you said, somewhere in the region of £25 million. So they'll definitely be looking to recuperate at least some of that. So it's not going to be cheap, and I think Norwich will be priced out of that. Yes, we will have more money under the Atanasios than what we did under Delia and Michael, but I still think it will be quite a hefty fee that Villa will command. So for me, I think he'll be here until the end of the season, and then we'll look to go somewhere else, whether that's in the Championship or the Premier League. But someone else who I do want to touch on, of course, is the main man, Josh Sargent. Another goal for him since he's returned from injury. He is like a man on fire at the minute. And that is now 16 goals contributions for him in 20 games. And he's now on 11 goals this season. And that's only 4 behind Borja Sainz. He couldn't actually get our golden boot, could he?
Mate, it's getting very close, isn't it? It's quite worrying to extent how Sainz, I think his last goal was November against Luton, I want to say. So
yeah,
it's been quite a long time now. Yeah, exactly. So it's been quite a long time now, and I generally do think maybe Sargent could catch him up. As I said earlier, really, I think the way how Sargent is just so clinical right now in front of goal is just crazy, really. I think that goal that he scored against Stoke yesterday, I think that was brilliant. I think maybe I can't think of too many. Maybe that Watford goal away in the Premier League, but I think that's probably up there with his best goal we've scored. I think I actually looked today, and I think Sarge's now scored, I think, 42 goals to the club, really. So he's actually getting quite a lot of goals now. Maybe before the end of the season, he could reach 50 as well. So, look, I think there's no denying that Sargent is probably one of the best strikers in the league, if not the best. Maybe Sunderland fans might try and query that with Wilson Isidore, but I think what Sargent gives you in terms of hold-up play, running in behind, shooting quality, he's just absolutely fantastic, mate. And I think the biggest reason maybe why clubs might not go for him in the summer is probably due to his availability, right? Although I think he's probably played now maybe about half the season. I think he's just showcased there just how well his game just emanates to the English game. He seems to be so confident within his body right now and wants to try and take on opponents and try and contest against really, really strong defenders as well. So I just lose the words with Sargent right now. I think he gives us so much, and he's that most important player for Norwich in terms of wanting to lead the play together, and he just elevates our performance levels as well. Obviously, our team is so young; we probably now see Sargent as quite an experienced player for the team, but he gives us just so much. And I think I'd probably arguably say I think this spell by Sargent has probably been his most clinical in front of goal. Absolutely, I think those bottom corner finishes he scored against Swansea, I think that really just kind of set a tone for quite a high standard for him, and I think he's doing ever so well right now. And I think if not to lose him in the summer, it could be quite a sad moment for the club actually, because he gives us so much. But obviously, if Norwich don't go up, then I think he's definitely going to be destined for either a Premier League move or a move maybe to a top 5 league.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with what you said there. For me, he definitely is the best striker in the league. I don't think anyone can offer his physicality, his goal-scoring prowess, his link-up play. I think he is the complete package, and I think he'll go far. And to be fair, I think Norwich will really struggle to keep Josh Sargent beyond the summer. It looks like Sainz will probably go, but if even one of those players are still at Carrow Road after the summer transfer window, then Norwich have done very well indeed. But for what it's worth, I think Josh Sargent probably will get more goals than Sainz, because as you alluded to there, Sainz has gone a couple of months now without a goal. His last one was in November, but do you think that shows that maybe there is a different side now to Sainz, and that he is thinking more about the team rather than himself? I know people had said that he'd been very selfish with some of his creativity and his creative output probably around the festive period. Do you reckon that has changed?
Yeah, I think with Sainz, I don't really back or support the idea that he was being selfish, to be honest, because generally I think that is what Top was actually probably wanted him to do, because he was the only kind of major goal threat for the team. His numbers were fantastic, so I think maybe, obviously, I think the natural interpretation would be that Sainz probably was being selfish, but I reckon that is probably what he was being told to do. Look, Sainz gives you so much qualities. I think even the little things about running away from his defenders is just fantastic. His speed, his link-up play, that's all great. Obviously, he got an assist again yesterday, so I think that is now 18 goal contributions from this season. So that is just absolutely fantastic overall. Hopefully, we do start to see those goals come in there, because it feels like that chance he missed against Hull was quite a big one. I just think if maybe he just get one goal, maybe off his bottom, off his ankle, off anything, maybe that might really start to kickstart his form again. But yeah, I think with Borja, he gives you a lot of qualities which Norwich actually needs, and I think it'd be very, very difficult if he was out the side for Norwich to try and replace him. Looking at every player is replaceable to an extent. We've seen it last year with Johnny Rowe, etc., like that. But I just think the way that Sainz can score a worldie out of nothing, to an extent, he kind of has that trait in this game where he just can score a goal out of nothing, really. And I think that is a very, very vital part of the game, because it feels like there's been quite a few games this year where I felt Norwich been quite flat, and I just do feel like if you've got a player that can just shoot from range or beat 2-3 men in quite a good situation. And I think that is such a big trait in the game, really, to kind of have a player that can do something like that as well. So I'm a firm believer that Sainz is a great player. And I just think those selfish claims were maybe a bit harsh, probably because that's probably what he's been told to do. But you simply can't deny when Sainz and Sargent play together. I think their chemistry now is great as well. They play at such a good intensity for the team, and it just makes opposition defenders very, very nervy of them because they just give you so much. And then hopefully that can continue until May, and hopefully beyond that to maybe a playoff campaign, right?
Yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed. But I think the beauty of them two is that they're always helping each other, and they're always adapting each other's game as well. Seeing the Sargent goal, his first goal as well because of the turn, but his second goal especially just because there was nothing on and he shot and it flew into the top corner. I thought it was very reminiscent of Borja Sainz's goal against Cardiff, actually, where you look at it and think, okay, there's nothing on here, no real right to shoot, and he finds the back of the net. So I think they're definitely helping each other and helping each other improve and kick on. But someone else I do want to touch on is, once again, their attacking partner, Ante Crnac. He came on at half-time, and he actually had a hand in that second goal. The Josh Sargent first goal, when he opened his account for the day, a lot of the hard work for that was done by Ante Crnac, and it was quick thinking from Sargent that saw the ball end up in the back of the net. But a lot of credit has to go to Ante Crnac. Do you reckon we've found the best case scenario for Crnac, him coming off the bench to sort of help out with Sargent?
I think it's so hard to call because I feel like when you've got a player like Crnac or Dobbin, I think both of those guys have different profiles. I think if Don plays on the right, he kind of gives you that more byline threat, watches across the ball in. But whereas I think Crnac's probably one of his best traits, I think, is probably turning into central areas, really. And I was actually very impressed with Crnac. I think probably the last maybe 6 or so games, I think he's been quite poor. Maybe that's just down to fatigue and tiredness, but I think that performance off the bench against Stoke was very encouraging. Obviously, Dobbin had to come off due to maybe a slight injury, but that's a very, very good performance from Crnac. I think my only maybe assessment or maybe point to make about Crnac is that I think he's putting in very good performances against sides who probably are more oriented towards the relegation plays, maybe the Stoke game, the Plymouth game, the Luton game, for example. And maybe kind of right now that is probably where his level actually is. Obviously, Norwich will probably hope that maybe coming into maybe pre-season next season, hopefully that can elevate as such. But I just think he's very, very good against a side who maybe probably aren't favoured to win against Norwich, but and maybe that kind of gives them some confidence as such. But I thought overall a very, very good showing yesterday. My mind and my kind of thought process on Crnac just changes every week, mate. 1 week I could be absolutely on Crnac's back, or the next week I could be absolutely in love with him. So very, very good performance against Stoke. I like what he brought to the team energy-wise as well. And maybe just due to the energy point that I just raised there, maybe that is probably why maybe he hasn't been up to the races before. And maybe he's just been a bit tired, a bit lethargic, and that's probably caused maybe Norwich being a bit blunt in the attacking third. But overall, I think he's shown decent qualities, but I think he's a perfect example for me next year about how Norwich grow, because obviously if Sainz and Sargent do both leave, there's got to be existing players to step up, because what you can't do is if you sell the likes of Sainz, Sargent and all your best players, and then you're kind of left with quite a core maybe of young players like Jurasek, Crnac, Forson. Some of those guys are going to have to come good next season, and I just hope that he can do. Obviously, football is such a weird sport and it's so hard to predict what's going to happen, but it feels like for me that Crnac fee wasn't very cheap. It was quite pricey, and I think he's got to be a bit more. I think it's very difficult to try and find a balance between getting that short-term impact and that long-term gain as well. And I just think maybe across this season I want to see him play better against maybe the stronger sides in the league, because it feels like next year Norwich want to be maybe a playoff promotion team. and I just wonder whether he can raise his game to that level. Right now, I'm not too sure. And what that means is if you have like maybe a group of players who maybe aren't at the level yet where they can really kick on, it puts pressure on those new signings coming in next summer to really kick on. And I just hope that those players here right now can really just maybe help ease the burn a little bit and just try and deliver some really good performances until now to the end of the season, because it feels like look at last year, for example, with the likes of Nunes and Sainz. I think both of those players towards the back end of last season were probably arguably our best players. So it's just about that Norwich can hopefully just have a conveyor belt of talent to keep developing and putting in good performance, because if those guys leave, Norwich are going to need them to kick on next season.
Yeah, definitely. And I think whenever Crnac is debated, I think he has really suffered from his price tag, which obviously isn't his fault. But whenever people are saying, okay, well, he should be doing better, or it's good to see that he's performing well, they always inevitably then bring up how much Norwich City spent on him. So I do feel sorry for him in that regard. The fact that that's something that's completely out of his control. And I think maybe it's played on his mind this season a bit. So, yeah, whenever he has sort of come off the bench and maybe not had that pressure of being the starting man in the team, then he has really flourished. And I thought he had a really good game when he came on against Stoke at the weekend. But I think it was crucial as well to see that this Norwich City side can win without Kenny McLean in the side, because look, we all know what Kenny brings. He's such a linchpin to this team. He's the captain, and he's the captain for a reason. But Sorensen, as you alluded to, had a good game as well. But how important is that we won without Kenny McLean? Because we've seen it this season before. When he's not been in the team, we've fallen apart. So to be as dominant as what we were, it's a brilliant sign, isn't it?
Mate, it's so important at that point, because it feels like the game against Preston for me was just such a pertinent example of why Norwich just aren't good without Kenny McLean. Because although Norwich did have quite a lot of technical players like Jacob Wright play that game, and a lot of other players like Nunes, example, coming on, etc., it felt like Norwich were lacking players that could really change the intensity of the game. And like throughout that whole game, Norwich just very, very flat and things couldn't get going. Obviously, I didn't watch the derby game completely, but that kind of felt similar to the Preston game, that Norwich were a bit too lethargic, a bit too slow in certain areas of the game. And although the likes of McLean, I'd actually also put in Stacey as well in this debate. I think those players, although at times they might not be the most reliable in terms of precision output, they both are very, very good players at just maybe either beating a man or just finding a very, very good effective pass that can almost change the flow of the game. And I think, especially at championship level, I think JHC also said earlier in the season, I think it was the game maybe against Derby, I think one of the biggest things he said is that the championship games can just flow like in a matter of a few seconds. And I think Kenny McLean is such a good player at just at kind of changing it almost to make Norwich a very, very good, quick, strong side on the ball. And I think he's so good at finding those maybe clever passes in those pockets of space, or maybe either like dribbling through many players as well. I just think it's very important to have players like that to really just try and change the flow of the game. But a very, very big point you made there, especially about how Norwich, I think maybe because Norwich started the game really, really strongly, and maybe they didn't go behind. I think that probably helped them a lot as well. I'd have been very, very interested to see if Norwich's performance was the same if they did go behind, because I feel like maybe that might have not have been the same outcome potentially. But look, if you're winning the game without Kenny McLean and also Marcondes as well, I think both of those players give you so much, just so much security and quite a big presence in there as well, really. So I think that was huge for Norwich, and I was very impressed with Sorensen's cameo, as I said earlier. I think he was a bit more progressive on the ball during the game. Nunes as well, and I think Norwich just looked much more fluid. And I think that hasn't been the case this season without Kenny McLean. I think Norwich have only won 2 games now without Kenny McLean, so that's still something that needs to be addressed and worked on, because the sample size is still way, way too small. But a very, very good start. If that is going to be a case coming towards end of the season again, hopefully Kenny is back soon. But I would be very curious to see if Norwich's performance was the same if maybe went the goal behind. But obviously, hindsight is a wonderful thing. I'm ecstatic that Norwich got the win anyway, but I just think the way that McLean could just change the flow of the game is very important, and hopefully, the likes of Nunes can maybe try and bring that quality into his game more often.
Yeah, definitely. And someone else who you briefly mentioned there was Jacob Wright. What have you made of the Manchester City loanee so far? I thought he struggled against Preston. I didn't think he had a great game in that, but when he played against Hull, I thought it was much improved. And yeah, maybe it was a bit of a shock to not see him in the starting lineup for the game against Stoke. So, what have you made of his spell in Norfolk at the minute in the early days, and should he have started that match for you?
Yeah, I think I agree with you, mate. I think the game against Preston, he just didn't seem at the races. I feel like at times during that game, I don't think he was. I wouldn't say maybe. I just think during that game he wasn't maybe up to speed with JHT's ideas for a team midfielder, because it feels like a CDM role is so important in Toronto City. And it just felt like maybe it's a bit undercut. I think he maybe was probably only had about 2 or so training sessions as well. So it was quite hard to maybe play him straight away. But then again as well, that's an experience which I also think he'll probably thrive on as well, because he came from, I think he came from Man City's 21 side, and obviously I watched a bit of him for the Man City 21s, and he was a very, very good player there in deep areas, and I see why Norwich like him a lot. But it just felt like during that game he was a bit too. It felt like he was playing a game at that level, at that kind of academy level, when he didn't really kind of like adapt quick enough to the kind of tempo and flow of the game as such. So definitely a player who has got great potential. I think he had quite a difficult 30 minutes against Hull in the first half as well, but after that he looked much, much better, more assured, and also more progressive, right? I think it's so important that Jacob Wright becomes a very good progressive passer for Norwich, because it feels like, although Kenny McLean can do it well, he can find a pass. I don't think it's probably as frequent as he would like. I think if Jacob Wright can be that frequent guy at being playing those precise passes through the lines at every given opportunity, and just try and be that progressive player from deep, that is what Norwich need to an extent. And I think having a player like him will be very, very important. Obviously, I wonder how much games he's going to probably play now to end the season if McLean does come back. But I've been impressed with him. I like his game. I think he shows a lot of personality to come on the ball from deep. But he's also got quite a nice bite to his game as well. Quite a good defensive edge to it as well. But I just think at times with Jacob Wright, it's got to be a bit more progressive, and maybe even show for the ball a bit more frequently as well, because JHT system requires a lot of rotations and flexibility. And I just want to see him feel a bit more comfortable within that system a little bit. So I think that comes through game time. But I like what I've seen. Obviously, I think that Preston game was an anomaly, but hopefully he can really build on his performances in the last 2 games against Stoke and Hull. And I think he's going to be a very, very good long-term signing for us in the future. What about yourself, mate?
Yeah, I think he's as I alluded to there. I think he's been decent, and he's been someone who has got better and better every single game he's played. I think he really struggled against Preston, like I said, but yeah, he's just grown in confidence ever since, really. So fair play to him, and of course he's still young, and going from one young player to, well, the entire team. We've not had you on the podcast recently, Will, so we need to check in with you and how the youth team are doing. So obviously, in the week, we dropped an exclusive interview with Vicente Reyes, the Norwich City Academy goalkeeper, and Freddie did that interview. It was brilliant. So go and check it out on our YouTube channel now. But how has life been going for our youth teams? How have they been getting on recently?
Yeah, I would say up and down probably since the start of the new year. Obviously, they got some great wins in the FA Youth Cup against Bournemouth in the new year, but unfortunately, they couldn't get through against West Brom at Carrow Road as well. So for the under-18s, there's been some good results. Obviously, it wasn't so good on Friday. They lost 5-0, but I think that's maybe a bit too harsh to maybe go deep into that, because they had quite a good week, beating second place Palace in the league, but also going through to the Norfolk Senior Cup final as well. I think one player who I think we're all accustomed to is Jack Ruddy. Obviously, John Ruddy's son. He's had a very, very good campaign and goal for that Norfolk Seniors team. So he's done really well. But like sort of obviously the Sean Studios also signed a new professional deal as well, which is very, very much deserved. A few more players to mention as well, the likes of Miles Bracken, also Toby Chilvers as well. I did a piece on Toby's game actually last week on the MFW website. So feel free to check that out to kind of learn more about his game. But there's been some quite good performances from everyone involved. I've liked the look of the new signings of Aladon Mareki and Gwanzura. Don't even ask you to try and pronounce that Gwanzura's first name because I'll embarrass myself terribly. But both of those guys have been brilliant. They both show character and quality to play on the ball and to try and be very, very good, effective players of the team in multiple different scenarios as well. So very impressed with them. Obviously, the under 21s have had quite a tricky spell. I think they're still winless without a win, in the new year. It's been quite difficult, but there has been glimmers here and there of some really good play. Obviously, I think we all saw that Brandon Forbes solo goal during the start of the new year as well. Absolutely fantastic goal. He's coming on nicely. I'm really liking Brandon Forbes' general play. I think his game's coming on well, but I think he needs to be a bit more clinical in front of goal to really try and impress JHT, etc. Also, like AJ Bridge, AJ was also involved with the first team against Watford as well. So that is absolutely fantastic. A player who I think we might see more towards in pre-season as well. So there's quite a few players impressing for both sides. I just think it's about trying to get a few good results going into, obviously, next year, because I think both sides are probably still under a bit of a transition, probably more so than under 21s because their squad is so thin and there's a bit, and I think the squad and maybe I've also maybe probably suffered a little bit as well due to injuries, obviously. Also as well, first team selection as well, right? Obviously, seeing Lucy Mahuvu go to the first team was fantastic, but that has also led to them having to play quite a lot of fullbacks in his role as well. So it's been going okay. I think there's probably going to be. I think there's definitely a chance for Norwich, probably for both of the sides to be much better in their respective leagues. But it's going okay. I probably do want to see a bit more, probably results-wise, and probably in front of goal, especially for the under 21s, because I think they've got a lot of quality, and I don't think their league position right now reflects their ability. But very, very encouraged with some players, as always, with academy football. There's always a few that always stand out as well. So it's been going well, but I generally do think Napa and Rastrick, etc., we want to see a few better results going into next season. And obviously, as well, mate, the women also played today, and they are now back to winning ways and quite comfortably as well. Obviously, I did see that Andy Cook was obviously involved in the Manager of the Month conversation as well. I think he won it as well, if I'm right in thinking as well. So that is all good and well. How are they be getting on, mate?
Yeah, so they, as we all know, had a calamitous end to 2024 after they failed to get promotion. But in 2025, I believe they've dropped 2 points in the league, and that was because of a draw against Royal Bedford. And they've won every other game, I believe. And today they got another victory against Cheshire, against quite a strong Cheshire United side as well. It was 1-0. Holly Kennard scored yet again. She's becoming a bit of a talisman for Norwich, to be honest. She seems to score in every game at the minute, which is definitely a good thing. And that result actually has put Norwich back at the top of the Women's National League Division 1 South East, something that looked impossible come the start of the year. As we headed into 2025, Norwich were 8th. Now they're top. But, and there is a but, Royal Bedford, who are in 2nd, they haven't lost a game yet. They have drawn a few games, but they haven't lost a game yet. And they've got 3 games in hand over the Canaries. So you have to think that it's still very much Royal Bedford's to lose, but Norwich will make sure that they push them right to the wire. But something else that I did want to talk about, just because I think there's a similarity here, is the cup competitions that both sides are involved in. So you mentioned there the Norfolk Senior Cup. I believe Norwich beat Dereham in the Norfolk Senior Cup, and they had a certain Grant Holt playing, so that was fun. But what is the perception internally of the Norfolk Senior Cup? Is it a cup that Norwich maybe could do without, or is it a cup that they do want to go far in? I know with Norwich City Women's, they prioritise the County Cup and they do love the County Cup, but it is very much they dominate it whenever they're in it because they are simply the best team in the county, and they've won it for the last 3 or 4 years on the spin, I believe, and are obviously huge favourites to win it again. But I know that whenever they're in the National League play or the FA Women's Cup, they obviously hold more prestige, so maybe they prioritise that more. But what do you think the feelings are internally at the club about the Norfolk Senior Cup?
I think overall, the coaching staff appreciate it. I think due to a lot of academy football being played against a lot of players from the same age group, I think playing against senior players, I think he's a very, very good experienced player, such as a young age. And I think they've done really well across the whole campaign in that competition. I think they played against many sides who wanted to maybe play out at times and maybe do it on quite difficult pitches. They played the likes of Sproulston, Dereham, and also Fakenham as well. So quite a lot of local sides there that have given a notch run for their money. I think teams who want to be a bit more direct is only good for the club and the young players, because it is very, very rare, especially at 18s level, where you get a lot of aerial balls on quite difficult pitches as well. So I think overall the club are very grateful for the opportunity to be invited into it. I think it's great as well. But in terms of how they probably regard it, it's been quite interesting actually, because last year they played quite a strong 21 side in the competition, but this year they've adopted quite a new mentality and have just gone for a very, very young under 18s team. So it's been quite an interesting experience to see how those guys have both got on over the last 2 years. Obviously, the under 21s lost to, I think it was Galston last year in the County Cup. I think it was a semi-final as well. Obviously, I think Norwich got a red card in the first half of that game. So I think that gave Galston the edge to really kick on. But this year they've been really good. They've done a lot of fringe players that have stepped up. Obviously, the likes of, as I said earlier, Jack Ruddy, the goalkeeper. His game has been quite limited this year due to Henry Budden being the first under 18s goalie in the Youth Cup and the league, for example. But a lot of young players have stood up. There's been a few 15, 16-year-olds being involved in the competition as well. So that is only great for their careers in the long term, playing against a lot of senior players as well. So it's been a competition which I think Norwich appreciate, but probably they're not going to go full strength, because I feel like I think definitely this year has been a lot of, maybe I wouldn't say a lot, but quite a bit of attention paid to how the Norwich go in the league in the academy, and if there's been a progression from the last campaigns, because in the last 2 years, especially with under 18s, the league results, the league form hasn't been too good. So I think that's probably led to them going for a stronger team in the league and maybe a bit of a weaker side in the County Cup. But definitely a young side in the County Cup and a lot of players to get absolutely fantastic experience.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you're spot on. It offers a completely different dimension to this Norwich side, rather than playing academy teams all the time in the league. But I'm pretty sure in the final they'll face Wroxham, I'm pretty sure. When will that be? When can Norwich City fans expect the Norfolk Senior Cup final? And what do you make of our chances against Wroxham? Because I know their first team are really struggling this season in the Isthmian North. So
yeah, I think Wroxham have got a lot of draws recently. I think, if I'm right in saying, obviously Jordan Sargent has returned to the club, and I think Wroxham are quite an adaptable club. They aren't afraid to go along, but also try and showcase some good passing passages at times as well. So I think the final will probably be a bit later. I don't think there's been a date announced for that yet, but I'd imagine it might be towards the springtime for that. But I probably, if there is any updates or dates on that, I'll obviously post on my social channels. But I don't believe that there's been any dates yet. But obviously, please feel free to correct me if you have seen in the comment section, because that'd be greatly appreciated. But Yeah, I think it's going to be a good game. The final, I think Wrexham have got a lot of young players as well. Obviously, I have watched Wrexham, so I can give you a little bit of information about their best players. But every time I've watched Wrexham, it's always been their fullbacks. I've probably been their best players as well. So it's going to be an interesting one, I think. I do probably expect Norwich to probably come out the game probably as the winners. They have played in the last game against, I think it was Durham, obviously. A few of the under 21 peripheral players did play in that, so they might go for also a slightly stronger team as well, just to try and win that game as well. But overall, it's never a game for both of the teams to play at Carrow Road. Obviously, Wroxham don't play there much, and obviously neither do both the academy sides as well. So overall, I think it's going to be a very, very fascinating fixture ahead in the final. But hopefully, Norwich Academy do come out on top. But I'm sure it'll be a great evening of Norfolk football.
Yeah, fingers crossed Norwich can get over the line and defeat the Yachtsmen and lift the Norfolk Senior Cup. But normally it would now be the time in the podcast for Jack's quickfire hot takes. But of course, no Jack today. So we're going to do something a little bit different, aren't we, Will?
We are indeed. So we're just going to maybe do, you know, how you get on Twitter, you get a lot of maybe tweets about who's been the best player, who's been the best signing, who's been maybe your top 3 players of the season. So we're going to do our own 3 picks now of our best player, our most underrated player this season, and also our best new signing. So I think we'll do it in true play of the season fashion and go for our top 3. If you're okay to go for that in a very, very true Barry Butler fashion. So I think I actually said maybe during Christmas, I might have put Shane Duffy in my top 3 players of the season so far, but I think that might change now due to his form across winter. I think he maybe probably dipped a little bit recently performance-wise. So I think my best 3 players this season, but I think honestly, the rate Sargent is going, that could easily change come next month. But I think my top 3 probably will be, I'll go for Callum Dorr at 3rd, Kellen Fisher as 2nd, and Buddha Science as number 1. Do you agree with that, mate? Or are you going to go for something different?
I don't agree with that. I'm going to go for something different, actually. I think we've done this question before, but as you said, it chops and changes every single week. But at the minute, I think I'd have to base it on importance. And yes, Norwich did get over the line this weekend without Kenny McLean in the side. But he is a linchpin, and this season has shown how instrumental he's been. So obviously, he won the Barry Butler Trophy last season. I don't think he'll retain it this season, but I think he's been our 3rd best player. And then obviously, you have to have Josh Sargent and Borja Sainz in that top 2. It would have been Borja Sainz as first and Josh Sargent as 2nd. I said before the season started, I fully expected Borja Sainz to win the Player of the Season award. And maybe I still do. But this barren run in front of goal, after how prolific he was in the first opening months of the season, maybe it does raise cause for concern. And I think recency bias might take it. But I think as well, if they both leave in the summer, I think I'd probably rather Sargent win the award over Borja Sainz, just narrowly. So, yeah, for me, I think at the minute, Sainz would have to be 2nd, and then Josh Sargent would be the one to win the Player of the Season for me at the minute. But yeah, I think that is fully recency bias, to be honest.
That is literally what I was going to say. Recency bias does definitely come to mind there, Henry, but I'll take it. Our next one is our most underrated player. And I find this quite hard because I've been thinking pretty much of all our squad. And I think I said on a podcast maybe all season, maybe about many players who maybe been very, very good at certain stages. But I think one player that I don't think we've talked about enough, and I think he's been very good, is Jose Cordoba, actually, for me. I think he's been so good on the ball on the left. And I think he was also very good against Stoke yesterday. By no means do I think he's a finished product. Absolutely not. But I just think he's been so reliable in possession. I think he's showcased his great physical qualities as well. Very, very strong, and has got quite decent recovery pace as well. So I really like Jose Cordoba this season so far. But I think when you've got Callum Doyle playing as centre half as well, then Wow, it's very hard to get into personally, isn't it? So, look, I'm going to go for Cordoba as my most underrated, as I think he probably hasn't been mentioned as much as probably like maybe like some of my kindness etc. has been. But what are you going to say, mate?
I'm going to agree with you. The first name that popped to my mind instantly was Jose Cordoba as well. So I think, as you said, he's very composed on the ball. He looks very sure of himself as well, but in a good way, not in an arrogant way. He knows his ability, and I think he's really flourished in this Yanis Hoftorp side. I completely agree. He's nowhere near the finished product yet, but he has time to grow and has time to grow playing games regularly in the first team, which I think is the most important thing. So yeah, I do expect big things from Jose Cordoba, and I think he's done really well. So for me, it would be him. But if I had to name a couple more players, I wouldn't really say underrated because he's got a lot of plaudits this season. But the fact that Emi Marcondes came into the group late and has performed as well as he has done, massive respect to him because he's been absolutely brilliant. And now he's probably one of the first names on the team sheet, to be honest. So Emi Marcondes deserves a shout in there as well. And I also think both of our left backs, both of our sort of permanent left backs, so to speak, in terms of their run in the team, deserve it. And Lucien Mahovo coming into the team and performing like he has in his breakthrough season really has been nothing short of phenomenal. And as well, I want to give a shout out to Ben Cresceni. I think the games he has played, he has got better and better, and maybe dipped off towards his most recent run in the team. But he's someone who I didn't really expect much from, and have been pleasantly surprised with. So I am going to go for Jose Cordoba, but I think it would have been an injustice if I didn't at least mention Ben Cresceni in there.
I absolutely love that from you, mate, because I think you've just given me two names for our next and final topic is our best new signing. And I think you summarise it there perfectly. Like, Emi Marcondes has just been fantastic. I think for me, he's been our best new signing, which is quite ironic, actually, as I did say on this channel, maybe before, that I don't think he would probably be a great signing for Norwich. And I've been made to look like a right idiot. And you know what? I'm so for that. Why not? Because he's been so good for the team. I just think he's so clever. He's a great system player. He can play in number 10. He can kind of play deeper as well. He's just so good at playing the right pass at the right times. He's so good at creating those overloads in attacking areas. And I think his overall passing quality is just fantastic, and is just a great advance in a break midfield. And I think defensively, in terms of work rate as well, has been top as well. So been so impressed with that. But I'm also going to go for my guy Lucien Mahovo as well. So good at left back so far this season. I do may want to counteract it slightly and saying maybe he hasn't played against like the top sides in the league in terms of opposition. But I think when you've got a player who is so good on the ball at breaking down sides, you see it in quite a low and congested block. I think he's great at finding those real good intricate passes. And I think I want to give Lucien an absolute shout out there. And I do think generally this time next year, he could be on our set pieces. So all I'm going to say, because his left foot is absolutely fantastic. But Henry, what are your thoughts?
And again, it's the second one in a row where I've agreed for you. It has to be Emi Marcondes, doesn't it? I know it's cliched, but he's probably got one of, if not the best footballing brain out of any player in this Norwich City squad. The way he can read a game is absolutely sensational. At the right pace, he's often in the right place at the right time. He knows what weight to play the ball, when to play the ball. So yeah, he's been a valuable asset for Norwich City, and I really do hope he can stick around for another year or so, because again, I think it's been telling when Emiliano Marcondes hasn't been in this team. So yeah, for me, definitely. Our signing of the season has been Emi Marcondes, but I guess you can shout out players we've already mentioned, like Cordoba, like Mahovo. I think the most polarizing one has been Ante Crnac. I don't think anyone can really say that he's been our best summer signing, but he's someone with the most scope and the most potential, I think, to truly grow and kick on, hopefully. So hopefully next season he can be one of the main men in this Norwich side. But I think just how polarizing he's been and all the debates and all the talk surrounding Ante Crnac, you can't really give him the accolade of signing of the season so far. But Emi Marcondes it's a clean sweep from us, and he has to get it for sure.
Yep. I was also going to say maybe one last one, maybe to be a bit. I wouldn't say rude, but I just maybe a bit of a discussion / talking point. Who's probably been maybe one of our most overrated players this season? Because I'm going to go for Anis Slimani personally. I think he's a very, very good operator for us, especially in that midfield number 8, number 10 role. But I just feel like when I watch him, I don't know if he's maybe a JHT type player in a sense where I think he's got good passing range and he's very, very good playing those passes when he's got no pressure on him. But I just feel like at times the way he kind of turns, I just think he can also be quite clunky, kind of like disrupt our play at quite pivotal times, really. And I just don't think he's that all action, maybe defensive midfielder, which I think maybe kind of need in that role. But that's my personal opinion. Do you have any more ideas on that, mate?
I do, and I hate to say it because he is a Norfolk boy, and we do all love him. But for me, our probably biggest, most overrated player this season has been Angus Gunn. I think based on George Long's spell in the team this season, Gunn has got away with a lot of the stick that George Long definitely would have got. I think the fact that he's Brian Gunn's son probably does play a part in that, and the transfer fee we signed him for again does play a part in that as well. And look, we know how good Angus Gunn can be on his day, but this season he hasn't been up to it, and of course he's out of contract in the summer. I personally would love for him to renew and stay at Norwich, but it's definitely a position where there are probably better goalkeepers out there than Angus Gunn. And if he was to depart in the summer, yes, it would be sad because he's a Norfolk boy, but there will be definitely another opportunity to get a keeper who's probably as good, if not better than Angus Gunn, because Gunn has made some quite poor mistakes this season. So if I'd have to call anyone overrated for this term, it would probably have to be Gunny, I'm afraid. But that's all for your My Football Writer podcast this week. There's not been so much nonsense this time, which maybe shows that the troublemakers are Freddie and Jack. But hopefully you've enjoyed this. And what are your thoughts, not just on Norwich City's current situation and our win against Stoke, but what are your thoughts on our questions as well? Who's been your player of the season? Who's been the most underrated player of the season? And who's been the most overrated player of the season? And your signings of the season? Let us know down in the comments section below. And as well, why not tweet us? And the best tweets we receive, we'll give a shout out in the next episode as well, because we really want to know your opinions on this. And if you're watching this as well on YouTube, please make sure you're subscribed. It really does help us out. But until next week, he's been the brilliant, as always, Will Grant. I've been Henry Miller. Thank you.